everybody. Welcome back to the It Hurts to Mom podcast. I'm Lauren Rose, and today we're talking to Keri Bunting. Keri is a worship pastor, a vocalist, graphic, and website designer based out of the Cleveland, Ohio area. She's a mother of four and has dealt with viral meningitis, Bell's palsy, debilitating nerve pain, and Hashimoto's. Keri is currently a contestant on the second round of You God's Music competition after finishing fifth in the first round. Thanks for coming on, Keri.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your chronic illness journey. Let's start there.
Okay. It started probably about the time I was 10, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 12. I grew up in rural Oklahoma outside of Tulsa, and we didn't have the doctor, I guess the doctors that were qualified enough to take care of it there. So I would go to the children's hospital, which was in Oklahoma City. And by the age of 12, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. At that point, it was just regular hypothyroidism. I got into my late teens, early 20s when I first started having children, and just weird things started happening. I got shingles when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was about 20 at the time. I had several different like viral issues that were going on. Like I would just get sick constantly. And we didn't know why. My doctor was like, well, you have a weakened immune system, you're pregnant. And then it happened after my pregnancies in the recovery period, just different viruses that were just strange that I shouldn't be having at my age. So that led to further testing, and then they found out that my hypothyroidism had progressed into Hashimoto's disease, where the antibodies were present. And actually my TSH was 69 at one point. And I know, off the charts. My doctor called.
Wow.
He goes, I don't know how you're not in a coma. Please come in. You know, I had my iron was low. My D12 was low. I had infusions in the hospital. So they just worked on, fixing what they could see, right? I didn't know the extent of my immune disorder until 2018. In 2018, I ended up getting viral meningitis, which came out of seemingly nowhere. My kids had been sick. They had a stomach bug, and actually it was about 5 days after the last one got over the stomach bug that I just had this pain, and I was like, I don't know what it is. My head hurts. I needed to wear glasses inside. I was like, oh, this is not normal. Anyways, it progressed pretty quickly. My husband took me to the hospital that day. They did a spinal tap, and it was viral meningitis, and the root cause of it was the virus that my kids had that gave them the stomach bug. I can't think of what it was, but anyways, so the recovery for that, it was pretty quick compared to how serious and fast that it hit me. I probably was within 2 or 3 weeks all the way better, and I didn't have any issues, no cognitive issues at that point. I had tests done to make sure that everything was working as it should, because with meningitis, it can affect everything, like your responses, your memory, and everything like that. So at that point, I was okay and I was cleared. And then in, spring of 2021, shortly after we moved to Cleveland, I had gotten again sick, but this time it was different. The first thing that we noticed was my husband and I had gotten to work at the church, and he kept saying, why are you making that funny face at me? I was like, what funny face? He's like, your smile. Like, are you doing it on purpose? You're being really goofy. And I was like, well, no, I'm smiling, right? He goes, no, honey, you need to look in the mirror. If you think you're actually smiling, you need to look in the mirror. And I was like, okay. So I looked, and the right side of my face completely wasn't moving. It was paralyzed. We didn't know what happened. He had rushed me to the hospital here. We thought the worst. We thought a stroke. Even though cognitively I was still there, we didn't know what to think. So further testing in the hospital, they had found out that it was meningitis induced Bell's palsy And also, like a week later, when I was still recovering from this, it had spread and I had shingles, which caused terrible nerve pain on the upper half of my right side of my body. And it correlated to um, my Bell's palsy. So after that, it took probably 4 months for me to fully recover, maybe about just under a month for my facial paralysis to be fixed. But I was struggling with things like memory loss, like severe memory loss. Like I'm still dealing with the effects of it. I have bad memory problems now. I mean, they're much better than they were. I had hearing loss in my right ear. I would say that it is 95% back, but I still deal with it from time to time of ringing in it and stuff like that. But that only started when I had the Bell's palsy and the last bout of meningitis. So dealing with that, on top of the Hashimoto's, I had just come to terms with like leveling out my thyroid medication, and then that happened. So, I mean, it was a tough period of time, but I've learned several ways to cope now that with my memory issues. It affects, a lot of things in my life.
Yeah, so give us some examples of how your illnesses are affecting your life. That's a lot of
Um,
stuff.
yeah, it really is. So being a worship pastor, like one of my main jobs is literally singing on Sundays and lyrics.
Mhm.
I I still am able to, luckily, uh just naturally know notes, where the song's going and things like that, but actual lyrics of songs I've sang hundreds of times, I completely lost them all. So luckily for me, we live in this world of technology, so I have a monitor that I read off of from the back. My vision is bad also. So it could be days where I can see it and days when I can't see it. But luckily I have an iPad that's closer and I can control that with a foot pedal. So I that helps me there. There's other things that I have completely given up to my husband, like things that I used to have control over, the kids, planning, sports, school stuff, school events, any holidays. I can't plan them anymore. I can't stack that information up in my head anymore to make it make sense. It's like overwhelming. It's almost like I'll get stuck. So luckily I have him where I can pass that torch on to him. He can plan all of that stuff. If he puts it in my calendar, I can kind of keep track of it. But I used to be complete opposite. I had to know what everything was going on, when everybody was going to be wherever, and I wanted to be in charge of all of that, but I've given up control on that. So relinquishing control over some things that I used to enjoy has been hard, but completely has changed my life for the good. Um,
Mm.
yeah, just being able to not have that pressure of getting all that done and having somebody I know I can rely on do it, that helps me a lot. Yeah.
No, that's really good, and I'm really glad that you can see that there is good that has come out of these really difficult things and these really hard choices you're having to make, like giving those things to your husband. Because I
Right.
know I plan all of our family stuff, and I can't imagine having him do it because he's not going to do it the way I do it.
Right. And you always think it's not going to be, like I'm kind of the person who will, somebody can do the dishes, I come back in after them and do it my way. And that's on me. I mean, us as moms, we need to realize that we can delegate things, we can relinquish that control, and it will free up something in us, even though we're losing that one part of that control and the feeling that we get from it, and knowing that we did all this and that it's the way that we want it, and not having to go fix someone else's mistakes is one thing. But when you come to the point where you have no choice and you actually do it, I mean, it falls in a different way, like where it's actually good and not like a detrimental thing. It's
And
good for everybody.
I completely agree. That's one of the four main tips that I have when I talk to people about living with chronic pain and chronic illness is enlisting help from your kids, from your spouse, from a housekeeper, from your neighbors and your family. And anything that you can either get help doing or just completely delegate to somebody else is going to make your life easier. You just have to learn to accept that it's a good thing.
Right. And in that time, you will find other things that you have time for, that you enjoy, that you're able to do, that you didn't know you liked to do it before.
Mm.
Like I've dedicated a lot more time to doing the things that I know I can still do, like fix things and when they're broken and stuff like that, and not have to worry about the little details of the things that used to hold me down.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what about parenting? Like your day-to-day parenting, your disciplining, how does your chronic illness affect those things?
It affects, again, it brings back to the memory and the planning. Sometimes it's crazy. I will punish a child. I'll be like, "Hey, this didn't get done. You actually have to, you know, you have to do something in lieu of this for a week." So like say my daughter didn't do her homework, like to be more strict on it, to pull that back out and say, "Hey, we need to work on this." I will forget that she forgot before.
Mm.
And I think my kids kind of take advantage of it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen it, but then again, I can't fault them exactly for all of that. But one of them will come to me and say, you know, my sister's grounded. She can't have the iPad today, or something like that. And I will completely forget because I had already given her the iPad and I hadn't even thought of it, honestly, like, and things that it's more like short-term memory. So like the things that are happening I can remember things from years ago still. I just can't remember like the day to day. So what I do is I have to rely on my husband and my older teens that help. I mean, without them reminding me, and I'm glad that the kids will kind of tattle on each other because that helps
Mhm.
me like, oh, wait, you can't get away with everything. If you just go to mom and ask her, she's going to say yes because she won't remember. So them having to help reinforce what I've already said helps a lot too. Yeah.
Right. What do you think the hardest part of living with chronic illness is?
Knowing that it probably won't go away all the way, but knowing that this is life and I can make the best of it. I don't see any good in dwelling in the negative. I know we can get to that place where like the pain's too much. I'm too tired. I can't, I can't remember anything. I can't get what I want done. I can't, but we can't think of the things that we can't do all the time. That's just so negative for our well-being. We have to I rely on God a lot. And I just look back at scripture and I remember that he has the plan in his hands, that this is all part of his plan. Nothing is unknown to him and nothing that we're going to face is going to be unknown to him. So I have full faith that he has my best intentions in mind. And that way I can keep pushing through every day.
Yeah, there's this wonderful book that I just finished with my small group. My small group at church that I lead is specifically for people with chronic pain. And it's a book called The Uninvited Companion.
Mhm.
And it talks about how to walk with God through your difficult circumstances. So the author has a lot of severe health complications too. And so he said, yes, there's a time and place for the why question. Why me? Why is this happening? But we can't dwell on the why. We have to get past that, past our grief, and move into the how question. How, Lord, how can I walk with you through these challenging circumstances that, in our cases, aren't likely to change? It's been a
Yeah.
fantastic book. I mean, my group got a lot
That
out of
sounds
it.
great.
So,
Yeah, I will definitely look into that.
yeah, highly recommend it. Let's kind of pivot to your music career just for some fun.
Yeah.
When did you decide you wanted to pursue music as more than just a hobby?
Well, let's see. I should tell you that I've been doing music since I was 12 when I first got diagnosed. And that is a huge outlet for me. And I think I turned to music a lot to get through hard circumstances and dealing with that challenge of my health at an early age. That's where I just threw everything into it. Um, I had my family behind me and they're like, will support you with anything that you choose to do, even if that's not choosing to sing in front of them directly at that point in my life, because of the stage fright. But I knew it was about 6 years ago, that for sure this was my calling. I have dealt with a lot of, you know, self-reflection and self-doubt, and it was a battle for me because I also felt like, do I need to pursue something for myself, or is that being selfish toward, like, to my family and to my kids?
Mm.
Um, that's like a huge part of it. But once I realized and I gave it to God and I went with it. I've overcome my stage fright, like, which is a miracle in itself. I would Before I would get up there, and I mean, even I would sing in front of certain people, I'll say that. But being on a stage and doing what I love, I've been able to completely open up. And I know that it's a job. Okay. It's an important thing for me to do, to follow my calling. For me to lead people into worship. It's very near to my heart. It's not something that is something I take lightly at all. I just had to realize that with my purpose in mind, that it's not for me, it's not for everybody around me, it's for God, and it's giving it to him to lead people into worship. And I want to go full force. I want to give it all I've got. I want to give God all I have. I I don't see another way around it. He's knocked on so many doors and I've tried to shut them, but it doesn't happen like that, you know? There's a point you just have to get to where you realize this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's where I am. I've led worship at churches for the last 5 years, with alongside my husband. He's amazing too. Without him, I probably would have never got on the stage, honestly. So I think God sent him to me to help me overcome the stage fright and to fulfill my purpose. And he's been just by my side 100%. And I'm very thankful for him. But so I am in the second round of You God's Music now. I'm excited. It is like an American Idol for
Mhm.
Christians, based on Christian music. And the way that it works is that you go and you vote. It is a donation-based vote system. Like the smallest amount you're able to vote is like $5, and that's 5 votes. That just helps, with credit card processing fees and stuff. It's tax deductible, and you'll get an email receipt. People can vote as many times as they want. There's no restrictions on that. Sharing is great. The hardest part about getting into music in this day and age, I believe, is that there are tons of platforms for everyone. But that being said, it's saturated.
Mhm.
It's very hard to get actual views, to get seen, to get heard. And that's so tough. I feel like if I would have done this back when the internet started, it would have been a
Mm.
lot easier because not everybody had the access that they do now, just in general. So it's hard to see things go up and not get seen or shared or liked. But then again, like there's a point, like you just have to work the system, basically.
Mhm.
But that I think that marketing and being seen on the internet is the hardest part of getting into it at this stage. Like I can see people like face to face. I can lead worship at a large church, and I still have the issue of, making that connection between reality and the virtual reality and the social
Mm.
media aspect of it. Like it's hard for people to connect. Like the people that really support you in person might not be able to access the internet the same way. Just, that's not important to them. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I don't know.
So where can we watch the show?
Oh, okay. It's going to be held online on YouTube for sure. I know it'll probably be streamed on You God's Music Facebook page or their website. It's yougodsmusic.org. And It's going to be held in San Antonio, Texas, the finale, which is on July 29th. So it will be live and they'll sell tickets for it there. But for everyone who's not able to view it like that, it'll definitely be online too. And you can watch it from there.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody goes and supports you.
Thank you. I hope so. I mean, Texas, aren't you in Texas?
I am in Texas, Dallas area. San Antonio's 5.5 hours away. So, well, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Sure. And if you're liking this podcast, make sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss any health, parenting, or life advice. If you want my freebie, which is 30 ways to relieve pain without taking a pill, go to ithurtstomom.com/tips or at ithurtstomom on Instagram under pain relief. If you have any comments, suggestions, or want to be on this podcast, please email me at ithurtstomom@gmail.com. I wish everybody a blessed and pain-free day.